Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast. This is season 7, episode 6. I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in, and downloading. It's been a fun season so far. I am recording this episode out of Louisville, Kentucky. However, my guest is in Hendersonville, Tennessee, where I just was. I just spent about 4 days down there in Hendersonville visiting my guest and his wife. Who was also a guest on episode 1 of this season. But other than that, I just want to give a special introduction to Jim Dalton. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you so much for that. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I just spent the weekend with you, so it's good to see you again. Long time no see. I've had Jim on, I think, majority of seasons. I've had Christine on every single one. Jim and Christine are family. I go down and visit multiple times a year in Hendersonville, and they're planning on making a move to Colorado. But yeah, spent 4 days down there. It was a good time to relax, get away. Weather was beautiful,
I
70
was about to
degrees.
say you picked the right time
Yeah.
because today it is not warm at all. It's
No, it's
unseasonably
brutal.
cold.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. It got freezing. We had a huge storm hit last night. I got in safely last night, and then a storm hit. And then it just turned everything cold. It's going to be cold for a few days and then hopefully warm up a little bit. But overall, with the trip, what was fun was like we did get to cook some ribs, which was great. Those turned out awesome on Sunday. We had those in the smoker, and then went out to a couple places, and then kind of just chilled. But yeah, the weather worked out great, and overall, it was a perfect time. So I thank you all for that.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, your family, you're always welcome. And that's regardless of wherever we are. If it's here, if it's, Colorado, if it's middle of nowhere, yeah, always welcome, man. And thankfully, it's a lot of the stuff that we do is relatively low key. And it's like I'm glad that you're a low key person too, and we don't have to worry about like taking you to all the places. Granted, you live down here for a few years, so you kind of understand everything and have already done it all. And
Yeah.
everything that's net new in some capacity is some form or fashion of something you've already done. So it's kind of like hand wave it away. There's not like a ton that's really popped since you
Yeah.
left.
Oh yeah, and the thing about it is if I break off from the group, I go to like a baseball game downtown, I link with Jama. I might go to a sporting event when I'm down there, but that's really it. Like we were discussing over the weekend and we've talked about it on the last episode how tourism has taken over Nashville, so big and we were actually, just sitting there chilling at the house, looking at stuff around town, and after I looked at it, it's like Hendersonville. Yeah, there's Rock Castle, still hasn't been renovated, finished yet. I know they were working on it to hopefully have it into this month, and then there's like an art museum and like a old fort. That was like rebuilt. Nothing too exciting in the area, so I've pretty much done all that. And when you go to Nashville, the only thing I haven't done is the Black Music Museum, which is brand new. It costs about $33. It's downtown on Broadway. Looks incredible, looks awesome, but not making a trip to Broadway just for one museum. And when I literally like look at the multiple tourism sites in Nashville, it's like, damn, I've done it all. And there's just really for it to have so much tourism, and for me not to have lived there since 2012 and we all never, we never go do crazy things or nothing
No.
besides like Top Golf that one time. It's just the thing that I wonder, it's like, how did it get so developed and big without adding new attractions? That's the one thing.
I think that there's something to be said about just Nashville being an it city in general. It really cultivated its name on the back of music. And in 2010, whenever we had that flood, and this is all speculation and opinion, I have no like, understanding of insider sources or anything like that. But whenever the 2012 flood or 2010 flood happened, a lot of those bars downtown, especially on Second Ave and kind of leading up the road, because it does slant up. If your listeners have never been there, Broadway does slowly and gradually creep up an incline, up until you start to hit like over there by the interstate where 65 and 40 link up.
Yeah.
But a lot of those bars, what do insurance companies do? Hey, we can either pay you out this much or you can rebuild. Depending upon who it was, I would wager to say I bet it was a mixed bag of people who left and those that stayed.
Yeah.
And as somebody who, like, I had coincidentally two friends of mine who had bachelor parties down here. They were a part of the wedding party and everything like that. Somebody younger in their family was getting married, and usually Nashville's known for Nachelorettes, like the bachelorette parties, and they wear the sashes and the matching shirts and all this other stuff. Yeah, it could be fun, but I don't know. It's not my bag. But I did go down, down to see these guys just to say, hey, hang out for a bit in the afternoon. And one of the things that I really really noticed was a lot of the newer developed bars are have all the same look and feel. They're
Yeah.
playing the same songs. They have the same type of live music. And it's not just one stage, it's multiple stages across multiple floors. And it just really didn't have that organic Nashville feeling. And, I've said it to you before, and I'll happily say it again. But to that point, I think that there's just this aura around it. And just the developers within Nashville are continuing to index on that because it makes money. Before that really hit, Nashville was a healthcare city
Mm.
and music industry. But, I haven't been a part of the music industry in, over 10 years at this point, 12 years. So my knowledge of what's going on in that space here specifically is really atrophied, but just my kind of inkling of seeing what's going on. Atlanta's popped. That's a big hub now, especially not just in music, but in television and movies. The Walking Dead, that's where they did all their filming. I know that's dated, but still, you get a lot of traction there because of the airport and the mobility and everything like that. But, I really think that Nashville has indexed so much on tourism as an income generator. And I know way, way too many people from New Orleans and from Las Vegas in the IT space alone to know once you go down that road, it's done. You no longer have a city, an economy, just overall um, kind of view through like the health of everything in general that's going to be able to withstand the peaks and valleys, especially the valleys of the economy. Those are things that, aren't in our control where we are. We're closer to being destitute and poor than being billionaires, but that's another story altogether. But, that's largely what kind of started the conversation. I know we're probably going out of order in what we kind of talked about, but that's largely what influenced my opinion going back to about 2013, 2012, and just seeing the direction where everything was going to say, like, I don't think this is going to end up in a good place for somebody like me.
Mm.
And I have to be always mindful about like jobs and everything like that. And I know we're in a new normal with, remote jobs and crap like that, but it's a different ball game because what I don't want is to get caught up in some sort of like huge recession, worse than what we did in '08, and then be sitting here and dealing with issues like that because that's not because nobody will come and spend money on entertainment and tourism and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of, well, if nobody's spending money, there are no jobs. It's easy as that. So.
Yeah, and that could get very scary in such an entertainment tourism city. And
Yep.
and definitely Nashville definitely had the healthcare. I know Vanderbilt does really good job with their healthcare area, but yeah. So to kind of go off of that to talk about a few topics that we had discussed that we wanted to talk about was industries like you stay up to know with businesses and different things. What industries do you see on the uprise and then that you see on the decline?
Yeah, and this is going to dovetail into a lot of things that we'll also talk about too. But like one of the things that you have to kind of separate, in my opinion, is like where the money is going. Like if you look up on the internet from any reliable news source, like anything about artificial intelligence, Anthropic, um, Gemini. Microsoft solution, ChatGPT, you name it, anything that's going around, Nvidia is another one. If you look at the money changing hands with these separate entities, it's looking more and more like, well, yeah, there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of adoption, there's a lot of utilization across the board. So yeah, you can say that that's kind of grown, but I also kind of take the long lens and a step back to say, well, look at what Apple promised Siri to be. And you know me, I'm a big Apple fanboy. That's all the hardware that we have in this house. We don't have anything beyond that. So it's like I lay that out at the beginning. It's like that's where I'm coming from, but I'm still
Yeah.
also being very critical of what they said that things could be. So you have this like virtual assistant that said to promise you the world, and then it gave you kind of a mixed results, right? It
Mm.
can't understand everything correctly. Maybe it won't launch the right app whenever you ask it to, so on and so forth. But I think that that's kind of the same thing that's going on in that space overall. Tech is always going to be kind of one of those that rides the wave a bit longer. The dot-com boom and subsequent bust was essentially replaced with the housing crisis and things of that nature. But, out of all of that, you had a lot of interesting things take place in that window. So you had like cellular phones going smart. You had things going from dial-up internet to high speed, a lot of these things that were removing barriers of friction in those spaces took time to do. And so whenever I look at, what businesses are kind of removing friction, it's in this really weird tied up space with like a bunch of variables that are incredibly complex. You can't really distill everything down to just, oh, these spaces are doing really well for these, few reasons. It's usually influenced by a lot of things.
Mm.
I know that's a big non-answer to what you just asked,
Yeah.
but it's like I will say that things like the technology industry overall is always going to be a strong player.
Mm.
Automotive doesn't go anywhere, especially in the United States, being such a big car culture thing, it just kind of gets muted for a little bit, right? It
Yeah.
it will come back. Even the government will bail them out if they need to, but you will always see that kind of be a core space for a lot of things. The other thing that is always really interesting too, and it's not one that gets a lot of attention, but it's like uh things like fashion and life brands, things that are out there where people are like, oh, I have this fancy wallet and I'm one of them. It's like I've had two of these Ridge wallets, not to, kind of pump them up there, but yeah, it's like I have the Ridge pen too. It's those types of things that are just a little higher quality, but they make a world of difference.
Mhm.
And a lot of that, which I think is tied up in, your experience with it and then being a promoter along with it.
Yeah.
And we can exist in these silos,
Mm.
right? Where it's like, I don't deal with anything sports related.
Yeah.
You could basically have a heads up on like, oh, hey, the NFL is using these new helmets, and 5 out of 10 guys are using them, but here's the drawback, but here's the value prop with it. That would be more relevant to somebody like in the college sports space, in the high school sports space, or the, uh, younger leagues that would be dealing with that type of stuff. So it's so diverse that it's really a personalized type of approach. And I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I, nor do I play one on TV, but I do always recommend it's like the things that you look at that you have situational awareness to. You should know what's going on. And while I do try to keep a broad brush about like what's moving and shaking. It's an interesting time that we live in, all things considered.
Now, with all that being said, something we also wanted to discuss with all these industries that are doing well, and even the industries that are in a decline, looking for something to raise them back up. We have to discuss AI. AI has taken over so big, and especially the past 10 years, 5 years, it's been incredible. And it's like, it's a big talking point. You know, you hear it on the news, you hear it on entertainment, you hear it, friends talking, you hear it with coworkers. It's like, um, with artificial intelligence, what direction do you see that going? Like, I know we both don't have like numbers laid out in front of us, but do you see that, um, helping industry, or do you see that maybe eventually having like yeah, it's improving some things and then it trickle down?
My thought on AI is going to be separated into a few different sections.
Hmm.
The first one is going to be just the overall performance. Like I mentioned with Siri, it took it a while to get to the point to be somewhat okay. Like
Yeah.
when my mother-in-law texts me, she's never texting me. She's talking into the phone and it's translating it. Over the last 10 years, it's gotten so much better. But then again, I learned how to read fragmented Paula talking into her phone and going, "Oh, she probably means this." Okay, moving on. So those types of mistakes have gotten less and less. So I think that we're at a point where AI can do, and this is like kind of point number one, is AI can do specific things really well. It's the right tool for the right job type of thing. I'll give
Mhm.
you a case, like an example in my personal professional life where I use AI to do certain things. Say, for example, I have numerous phone numbers for numerous people that need to go to specific addresses, and I also have to route them through separate vendors because, some of them may be here in the States, some of them may not be. Okay, cool. I dump all of those documents into AI and say, I need you to create a spreadsheet for me.
Mhm.
And I also need you to separate them out so that way I can share with the appropriate vendors, people, contacts, you name it. It's really good at doing that. It's
Yeah.
very good at getting to that point. It used to not be, and now it's grown into it. So I think it's just a continued learning exercise. And I will say that whenever I first started at my current role in 2021, one of the first things that I did was look at an AI bot to actually ingest IT issues and create tickets and surface documents and surface people to talk to, you name it. That's been in the mix for you know 5 years at this point. We'll give it four, 3.5, 4. It started with a 20% like deflection rate of like, hey, I didn't know, me as the customer, I'm typing my stuff in and this gave me this information. It was 20% successful then. It's about 65, 70% successful given the month. So it's grown, a good bit year over year, but it's had enough time to train on the things that are specific to that organization. So that's where I'm coming from. Like it takes time to get there,
Mhm.
but right now, the way that it is, it's not the right tool for all jobs. And so that's the kind of delineation that I want to make with that. Thing number two is going to be, I think and I mentioned this earlier with the money changing hands between different folks. You can just watch that happen in real time, and eventually, this is way above my pay grade. Eventually, the people on the boards of whomever are going to come and say, "What value are we getting out of this? Show me where we've saved money. Show me where we've had higher velocity. Show me all these metrics." And I think that leadership in those positions are going to have a tough time doing that. So what does that mean? If it's a boom, they get more money, they keep going on, they keep training it, they keep doing all these things. If it's a bust, that money gets pulled and licensing for things like Chat GPT just bottoms out and people move along. And then it becomes more of an academia type of thing back where I think it will end up. And then the last part of this, which I think is and it's the most critical to me, and I don't know if we've ever discussed this on the podcast, but I was an environmental chemist specializing in atmospheric science. That's what I did before I got involved in IT. So I tend to index on environmental issues. That's what I look at. I enjoy it. It's great. The only problem is it doesn't pay very well. So there's
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But whenever you go and ask an AI tool, "Hey, I need X, Y, and Z," and you're asking it to do these things, every few questions or queries you throw at it is about half a liter, 500 milliliters of water. It's also consuming a lot of electricity. And some data centers are really good about being committed to protecting the community. We
Mm.
have a data center in Gallatin. It's just, probably 5 or 6 miles as the crow flies from where I'm standing right now. And their whole pitch to Gallatin was to be water neutral by 2030. So what that means is they are not consuming any more water than is in the environment by that point. They also committed to the electric infrastructure as to not put unnecessary strain on it. Now, right, wrong, and different, Meta can, do all the things if you're a big Facebook fan or Insta fan, and there's a lot of stuff in the world about addiction and creating negative outcomes for kids and stuff like that. While I can talk about that all day, I can also look at something like that and go, that's the right way to do a data center. Now, the wrong way, which is
Now legally, are they held to that contract, or is this just what they're pitching and saying? They're legally bound to a contract, right? To hold to those
it's
environmental standards.
well, that's up to
I guess Gallatin maybe.
there's a lot tied up in that because you have, like you said, city, county standards, state standards, federal standards, things of that nature. I don't know if they legally did a deal with the city to say, no, this is a part of us actually doing this.
Mm.
But the fact that they have it up online, the fact that that was like a part of the news cycle several times, it makes me think that even in 2026 that they're going to be adhering to that. It's not going to go away.
That's
But
good. That's good.
yeah, but
And I
like
think too, but I think you're right. It depends on how they do it, and some of these data centers they could do it right if they wanted to.
and I think that that's part of it. And the ridiculous thing is that you turn around and look at how you do it wrong. And also, I do want to say there are data centers all over the greater Middle Tennessee area. We have a ton. You just don't know they exist. And part of what those data centers do is what they do co-location, where I'm a business. I have stuff inside of my building. Oh, the tornado that came through a few years ago has me concerned. What should I do for fault tolerance planning of my company? Okay, great, fantastic. Let's talk about moving all of your stuff inside of your office, inside of your bank, inside of your financial institution into a colo data center. Yes, you're going to pay more, but if your building gets wiped away, it's not going to be an issue. I actually had a customer a long time ago that their building got struck by lightning, fried everything.
Mm.
And they built the building, they owned it. I was telling the, kind of higher level leadership at the organization, you're going to be chasing ghosts in here for years. You're going to find weird stuff, and it's not going to be just IT related. You're going to be flipping switches, and light bulbs are going to flicker, and all this other weird stuff is going to happen. And it may not be now. It may not be 5 years. It could be 10 years. It could be longer.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that happens to influence somebody to go that route. But anyway, the way you don't do data center or the way you do data centers wrong and is really, really just awful is you go and find a patch of land and, buy it up cheap. And then you build on it. You bribe people locally. You do things that aren't going to be really welcomed. And a key example, if any of your listeners want to go and look at it, is there's a Grok data center from Elon Musk in the greater Memphis area that's built around low income housing, and it's eating up water and resources just all the time. In addition to that, there are these generators that you can pull up for, you don't do them for long term. That's not what they're designed for, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But you pull up these big trailer generators, you plug them into your backbone of your power grid for the actual data center and turn them on. Well, there's limits to that. Like you
Mm.
can't just, plug in a bunch of them and just say, "Hey, we're good to go." It's really meant to only be a short-term solution. But in doing that, it allows you to supplement the power that you're getting from the grid, which may be insufficient. They have done this, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's nearly, I want to say, double what the actual like limits are from the EPA. And they put out methane. It doesn't like create like a good noise experience, so noise pollution is a problem. And the people in the area just kind of have this like odor all the time of smelling all that generator exhaust, and they hear the hum all the time, and it's really not a good way to do it
Yeah.
because you're not taking in the community into that equation to say, hey, not only are we giving jobs back, we're doing so in a way that protects the environment and protects the community. And you create a lot of ill will doing that to people when, especially whenever you're taking the most expensive thing these people own in a low income area and say, hey, I'm going to build this and it's going to totally depreciate your value even more. That's not a good solution for those people.
No, it's selfish tactics and it's just thinking about the business before the community. And yeah, you're completely right. I mean, at that point, that's just toppling. I mean, that's rock bottom. I mean, literally, I mean, that is literally rock bottom for those Memphis residents. And
And
it's
it's coming
horrible.
from the richest man in the world. It's
Yeah,
like you could do this right if you really wanted to. Like that's
exactly.
that's the frustrating thing for me is that from an environmentalist. So
Yeah. No, I totally with you. I think it's bullshit and I think, something needs to be done. I do think it also, everything you mentioned, it it just kind of it speaks that money talks. People buy
yeah,
private land, and sometimes the city, even though it's involved with that city, they don't have an input, and these people
nope.
can throw something up, and you're thrown off right away. I something I noticed before we get into a next topic that when I was visiting you all, when I was doing a little driving by myself. I noticed by the Thorntons, there's a new storage place. Is that for RVs or what was that? It's
Yeah,
like a
I forget what it's called, but it's this company built out a bunch of like essentially 20-foot high storage places where you could go and park your car, park your RV, do all this other stuff, and or if you really wanted to, and this was a part of it because I remember the advertisement for it whenever it first came out, they could like put water and wire it for like electricity, and it's almost like, are you trying to create like a man cave that's like off your house? Like
yeah.
that's what it felt like. In all honesty, I'm like, this seems like they're just trying to like say, hey, all you people with toys, you can just put those toys here and create a showcase and have come people look. If you have like classic muscle cars, you can do that. We can build you stairs for a platform and all this other stuff. It was wild, but
It's in the most random fucking area too.
a
Like that's
hundred
such a
percent it
random spot.
is.
That's a random
Well,
ass spot.
and if you go about like, I want to say like 150 yards ish, like towards town past that, the whenever it finally happens, I mean, it's going to be well past the time that we're here, but they're finally building an underpass underneath the train tracks that are down here. So it's
Oh
going to
wow.
solve, yeah, it's going to solve all this traffic that we get down here whenever a train comes through. And it was approved back in 2024. They did all the, kind of land evaluations in 2025, and now I think they're at the point of saying, okay, now's the time whenever we actually start the process of doing everything. But haven't seen any.
If you all were staying in the area, would that be beneficial, you think? Or no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we go that way for a few things. We don't do it for everything because Christine's work is the other direction. And if we're getting on the interstate over here, we don't get caught up in that. We just zoom right through because everybody's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And most people are relatively, I want to say relatively good drivers and keeping a gap whenever you're trying to get onto the on-ramp. But not everybody is that self-aware and they may or may not
Yeah.
go bumper to bumper and just sit there and you're stuck. But yeah, oh, it'd be 100%
That's
benefit.
interesting. I mean, I can see that possibly happening, very soon because how much that area is growing and developing. That would be different. But so to talk about the move and transitioning from Tennessee to Colorado, something that you all are doing, even if the move hasn't officially happened or not, you're visiting Red Rocks Amphitheater to see a concert. I actually talked about this with Christine on episode 1, and you're seeing Jimmy World and a few other bands. So, with that scenario, tell the listener, why is Red Rocks Amphitheater? Why does it sound so good?
So I have no idea why it would sound so good at this point. Because I've only like generally speaking, outdoor venues overall sound like garbage. Yeah, it's going out into the ether. There's nothing there. You just have to, excuse me, push a lot of, volume to get it to wherever it needs to go. And it's depending upon what time of year, it might not be like everybody's and granted, I will say this, I am not a fan of festival shows. I never have been as a spectator, and I never was as a musician. I hated it. That being said, with an outdoor venue in Colorado after the sun's gone down, I think that's a different ball of wax.
Yeah,
Part of the reason that I'm excited for it is one, because Jimmy Eat World Bleed American is an iconic record, in my opinion. I know nobody comes to me for the answers of what like influential records are, but for your listeners, The Middle, it is the biggest song off of that record. That will
great
give you a
song.
good jump point. And go and listen to the whole thing. It's great. It's one of those records that I consistently go back to and listen to. But the thing that I'm really interested in is because I've seen like tapings of Red Rocks. And you can only take that so much with a grain of salt, because yeah, they're recording it live at the actual instrument. They're feeding everything from the board into another program to actually get it recorded, whatever DAW that may be. And you you wonder, well, what does that sound like? It looks great. That's the thing about it. It looks spectacular. There's
Yeah,
all this nature. It's really, really a beautiful experience. But, like I've said several times, I've always been a big, big fan of the Ryman.
yeah,
It's my gold standard. I don't care if it's a reconfigured church. I don't care if it's, like, oh, I sit in a pew next to somebody or I'm standing next to somebody. I don't care. It sounds killer no matter where you stand. But that being said, I'm interested to see how Red Rocks handles a lot of the audio issues that I mentioned at the top, because all the videos I've seen, it doesn't exist. It's an amphitheater in a bowl.
yeah.
So it's like, well, that's the natural way you would do it. Does it sound as good as what, you would expect? So I'm cautiously optimistic, but really hopeful that it will actually sound the way that I'm hoping it will sound.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Red Rocks, a lot of different genres have performed there. They did a rap concert with Key Glock, a Memphis rapper, and so it is cool that they bring different genres in. So I know that they probably have had so many different sounds go through it, but I think that is a place. It's more about the experience and more about the view and more
Yeah.
about just kind of taking it in and being outside and having that beauty. So what city is that in?
Isn't and I want to say, isn't it Denver proper? Question
Let me
mark?
see. Let me look up where Red Rocks is. Because I was
Because I know
always
it's on the east side of town, or it's on the west side of town, and it's not far from.
Morrison, Colorado.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. So basically, to sum it up for people, Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater is a world-renowned, naturally formed outdoor concert venue near Morrison, Colorado, famous for its stunning sandstone rock formations like Shiprock and Creation Rock that create perfect acoustics. So I guess the acoustics are incredible. And here
Yes,
you
so
go, owned by the city of Denver. So it is owned by Denver. So yeah, in that area. and host major concerts, film screenings, other events. So yeah, that'd be cool too. Thinking you get to see it musically, but then think about all the movies you could see out there and the other experiences. So yeah, when you all go out there, Red Rocks might be a go to you get to go to multiple times.
100%. And, whenever I was, kind of doing music, it's like I never went out that far. So
Yeah,
it's like it's all new to me. Like I will be happy to see what other venues exist because circling back to the Nashville tourism thing and then I'll drop it, but they have demolished a lot of the older venues here that were like, you know, staples.
yeah,
And that's really frustrating whenever you're like, oh, these smaller bands that I listen to can't can't find a place to play. And even then, before I moved here, the cardinal rule was you don't go play Nashville. The market's hyper saturated. Don't waste your time. And
yes.
maybe go to a Murfreesboro and play college shows. That will get you more money
Hmm.
than you would playing in Nashville. Anyway, moving on. Yes, looking forward to investigating other Denver venues.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so, going to Denver, of course, you have to move and you have to get a real estate agent and figure out that logistics. So, working with the real estate agent in Colorado, do they? How's the communication? Do they call you weekly? Do they email you reports like daily? Like what is it? Or are they? Do they understand your timetable? How's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say this, the only house that I've ever purchased is the one that I'm standing in. And
Hmm.
my buddy Ryan, I worked with him at Apple. He's a trustworthy dude. I'll send his information for anybody that wants to kind of work with a trusted realtor, and if you want to post that on the blog post for announcing this, great. But
Yeah, for sure.
the I think at the end of the day, the people that you work with on stuff are, especially for Christine and I, we have to come by it organically. And we get a mixed bag whenever people refer folks. And whenever we went out in December of last year, the Airbnb owner lived right behind the actual house. Turns out he was a realtor. Turns out we really liked Phil. And, we had had conversations with some other realtors,
Hmm.
some recommended, some not. And we just didn't like the vibe. It's like some people you just like, no, you lock in and you're like, nah.
Hmm.
Nah, dude, this doesn't feel great. But with Phil, it felt fantastic. We're like, okay, this is cool. And also everything beyond this, I'm going to say is going to be like your mileage may vary. So we said, hey, Phil, we'll work with you. This sounds great. This is what you do on top of your Airbnb. Great. And we provided a set of, data to say, like, this is the price we're looking for. These are the things that we're looking to have a part of it. And that can be bathrooms, bedrooms, square footage, location, you name it. Some of these things are very important. You just got to think about like what you want in this whole mix,
Hmm.
and he will put that into his stuff on his side of things. And yes, it can send me, hey, here's a list of houses that meet your criteria, which is more than things on Zillow, which is more than things on Realtor.com, which that's the advantage of it is that you see more stuff associated with the area. Now, our situation is a little bit fluid that I won't get into, but we're going back out here at the back end of this week. We'll be back out there and to see like, oh, hey, Phil, the game has changed. And I've already told him this via email.
Yeah.
And obviously I think he would be amenable if I called him up and just said, hey, Phil, change our, whatever it may be. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where it's at,
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that he would be more than happy to change. So it's really just you have to find the person that you feel good about, trust your gut, and deal with it in that way because any kind of like looking for housing, regardless if you're buying, if you're renting, you have to feel comfortable with the decision that you're making and looking at it very pragmatically through the lens of I need to just remove that whole I need to get there. I need to. It's like, no, take a step back, remove that emotion from it, and really look through it. But yeah, it's one of those things where we felt great about Phil. We're going with Phil. He's doing everything right. Sends us little notes every once in a while. He sent us one a couple weeks ago saying, "Hey guys, I see that you're getting close to your time here. Do we need to change anything?" And blah 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 blah. And that type of attention is important.
Mhm.
And
It shows
I
Phil. It shows Phil's up on his game. It's
it a
like
hundred percent. That
he's
is it. You
organized.
want.
That's the biggest thing you want with a realtor: organization. You want someone that's
Mhm.
like not a spaz and can actually tell you like you got this, this, and this. Hey, I'll meet you here, here, and here. Yeah. So when they check all the boxes, it also makes that move such an easier process too. I bet.
100%. And it's a two-way street. One of the things that I will just shamelessly plug while I'm here is that, my mother passed and I'm the only child. I'm the only one that's going to be able to deal with everything. So I had to deal with selling her house.
Mhm.
And on the other side of this is somebody who just gets it done. You're just like, hey, listen, I am 2 states away. Can you just get this knocked out? And they know people who can fix things. They know people who can come in and, like, oh, we just need to paint and patch and stuff like that. They do all of that and help you out. Like those types of folks are the ones that are just next level rock stars. They
Yeah.
do the job. And it's a little bit easier on the buy side, right? Because they don't have to they just go back and forth and try and like get you more better deal and things of that nature. But yeah, it's one of those things where both of those parties have to feel right.
Yeah.
You have to feel good about who you're working with.
How quick
And
would your mom sell? How quick would you say timetable? Because I know because that we're talking two different areas of town compared to where you're at now and there.
oh yeah, 100%. My mother's home was in rural southern Illinois, middle of nowhere. You can Eric's been there. He can testify that there's not a lot there.
Not
Um,
much. Yeah.
I I kind of put it through the context of, hey, it's 25 minutes to get to Walmart. That gives you an idea of where it's at.
Mm.
So it went on the market in September and then whole like it went back and forth. We had some offers and you just kind of expect that and I was like, okay, fine. But it finally sold in like March or April of the following year.
Okay.
So
And
it
where do you
was
see Hendersonville moving quick? Like just not to, before we move on to another set. Like where do you
yeah.
see that one moving like fast once you all are ready to list? Quick.
I don't think it's going to be as quick because the thing about where we live specifically is that, you know, probably 5 to 6 years ago, a house would go onto the market and it would be like by the time it hit,
Yeah.
there would already be like people saying, "Hey, I want a contract. Let me sign up. Let me bid on this." And there were bidding wars for it.
Mm.
So houses would just evaporate in 1 to 2 weeks. And so here now we have, I want to say four. We have four houses in our 96 community neighborhood that are on the market and have been sitting. And they're doing open houses,
Mm.
trying to move the needle, all that type of stuff. I don't know where Hendersonville is going to move from a market standpoint because our borders are so tightly locked. Hendersonville does not have any wiggle room to expand to like consume White House or Portland or Goodlettsville. All of that is so securely just caught together
Mm.
that like our real estate market here specifically is just an interesting animal. And I always just use our little microcosm here as well as whenever I go out and cycle, what's for sale. And I think like the last time that I did a big, tour around, I was seeing a lot more for sale overall than I had like, the week before. So
Wow.
it's like that's an isolated incident, but also at the same time, you just have to take it with a grain of salt and understand like, oh, that is somebody's specific use case. They want that. And I will say the same thing for this house specifically. It's a townhome. You
Mhm.
don't have to do the yard work. You don't have to do anything outside, which
Yeah,
is great. But also at the same time, you're constrained. You are very much in, 16 hundred, 1,700 square feet. So if you have a family that you're growing, might not be the best fit.
yeah,
But if you're like us, no kids, that's not going to be a thing. We have you down occasionally. I have my own office. It's a great fit. It works.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's a perfect home. I mean, it's a
agreed.
lot of fun. It's great. But the thing about it, you're completely right. But I think a good thing though is nowadays a lot of people aren't having kids. I mean, there is definitely people
True.
having a bunch of kids that, I'll say it's opposite. There's an extreme and there's a non-extreme where there's people having five kids because when I worked at the zoo, you see 50 kids, but when um there is a lot of people that aren't. So I think the house is a perfect spot. And your all's place, it checks all the boxes. I mean, you have two great bathrooms, three rooms upstairs, laundry. Overall, it's a good fit, and your home's comfortable too. It's very you don't hear tons of noises next door.
No.
It's very peaceful. So that's another reason why when I come down, you know, you all both know, you and Christine, like I love spending time outside if the weather's warm and just take it in because even though I have a patio here and I could sit out on my patio and stand out there and I do sometimes, it it's more of like I'm staring at an exit, I'm staring at the woods like a little bit, but it's so loud where yours it's pretty peaceful. So like when you do hear noises at your all's place, like a random low flying airplane or someone revving it up down the street. It's kind of shocking.
It's short-lived, and that's the other side of it is that like the walls between the units that we have are actually reinforced over spec. So it's like they were laying floors in our neighbor's house a number of years ago, and I didn't even hear it. I was like, they're banging the like slats together after tearing out the carpet and all that stuff. And like I walk outside and she, had the window open because it was springtime. And I was like, oh, you're getting new floors? Like I had no idea that that was going on.
That's the way you want it for sure. And then too, it's like where you're at, and you all are similar to where I'm at. It's like you got town next to you, you got everywhere to eat and do
Yep.
things and get your stuff, and then you got a freeway to hop right on that's the other way. And I'm the same way. It's like I got the freeway right there, and I got my stuff I can do. So um, I didn't really, plan it how it was going to play out, but it worked out, and I'm very happy from the point of like if I ever did move to Colorado with you all or wherever, it's like, yeah, I'd move and I'd give it up. But right now, while I'm here, I'm not going to change because it checks the boxes for me. And I think a lot of times, like talking about you moving and stuff, like you said, working with the real estate agent, you want it to check the boxes. You want everything to hit there, and there. So I'm excited for y'all to move. I'm excited for y'all to have a new experience, and I'm excited to come out there and visit y'all for sure. And uh, I've discussed my family. I think I mentioned, on the Christine episode, it'd be fun to go out there and live sometime. So we'll see what the future holds. Something I want to talk about also is that a topic that you and I got into a random discussion about in Nashville or Hendersonville, but planetariums. So I want to make an announcement for my local Louisville listeners who, you know, Louisville is my number one listening spot for people, and I'll say the planetarium at the University of Louisville is shut down. So there is no longer a planetarium in Louisville. I think they were trying to put the funds in it and get it to come back, but it just fizzled. And we were talking about how the equipment and the technology, there's a planetarium in Nashville at the Adventure Science Center. That's how we got onto the topic, but there's not many around, and it seems like talking about industries that's something on the decline, even though it's pretty cool.
It's super cool, and it's really a value add for those that want some sort of, kind of next level entertainment, because it's not just, oh, you show the stars in the sky and all that stuff. You can do laser shows, you can map it to music and do all this other cool stuff. But the reality of it is, specifically here in Nashville, if I'm not mistaken, there are only two of those types of units specifically that exist within the United States or the world overall. It's like they're very made for and purpose built to suit a specific type of setup.
Yeah,
And the parts and the people that manufacture them may not be around anymore. So it's one of those things where that type of kind of engagement for a business, if they do that type of thing, you would wonder like, oh, do they do something else on top of this to try and, make sure that they're fault tolerant? But the fact that it's very much it's kind of like the Neve consoles made by like the actual man himself like are not going to be widespread. It's very hand built, hand wired for the and I do mean, kind of like the Neve kind of equipment
mm,
for audio related, in case anybody on your, podcast is wondering who's Neve, and it's like, well, you can look it up.
yeah.
Nieve, if I get I's and E's mixed up all the time. It might be the other way, but just look it up. But it's very, very well known, very high quality, but also at the same time, once everything's said and done, it's like the likelihood that that will continue is very minimal. Um, so you think about the same thing in the planetarium space, and also at the same time, like, well, how long can this actually talk with technology? You built something, just hypothetically speaking, you built it in 1995, and that's not whenever this one was built, but just hypothetically, something was built in 1995. How much computer stuff can I get to keep talking to this?
Yeah.
We're 30 years out from that. I'm not going to be able to find computer equipment to be able to talk to something like that.
Well,
Hell, I doubt.
the music too being outdated. I mean,
Yeah.
I told you, I think I mentioned to you down in Nashville, the last one I saw was that Jackson Five's playing, ABC 1, 2, 3. And I know they were trying to spin it with like a Jackson Five theme, but eventually the music gets out of date as well.
Yeah, oh, 100%. And you have to constantly develop for it if you want it to be relevant. Oh, you want a laser light show to the new Jurassic Park movie, whatever that is. I don't keep up with Jurassic Park. I just seen commercials for it, and I'm like, why
Yeah.
are they using AI to generate like Jeff Goldblum looking that young? This doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But
That was a
that was
weird
my
Super Bowl
assumption.
commercial. That was a weird Super Bowl
Yeah.
commercial for sure.
I don't know if it's AI that generated that or not, but it was just weird. I didn't like it.
That or
So.
a lot of fucking makeup for sure.
Yeah, makeup, or they just, CGI'd it, which I would take that into consideration over
Yeah.
just AI trying to do it, because that's human driven.
Mm,
But yeah, it's just the hours, the human hours to actually do that type of stuff, to make sure that it's programmed correctly, to make sure that you have somebody on staff that knows that hardware. Like there are just a ton of unknowns there, and it's
mm,
very niche. Like
yeah.
the Adventure Science Center in Nashville, which is the one that you were talking about, and they're a smaller science center. It's not like St. Louis Science Center, which is fantastic. At least, throughout my childhood, I thought that they really had invested in it uh, quite well. But I haven't been there in 22 plus years, so I can't really speak to like what it's like today. But it was always just really well done. And I kind of same look at the St. Louis Zoo. You've said and
Mm.
confirmed that it's a great zoo. Yes,
Top
it is
notch,
a
yeah.
great zoo. Yeah.
But it's a case where no, you're right. I think it's interesting the Adventure Science Center, the way I looked into it over the weekend and you have to buy an admission into the museum or the science center to actually see the planetarium, which that's cool. That gets attention and eyes on the center. They want to get two birds with one stone deal. So
Of
I
course.
I understand it and it's not super expensive or anything and it's similar
No.
to IMAX and OmniMax. Like the OmniMax is something I love to do in Cincinnati, Ohio. Every time I'm in Cincinnati, I go to the OmniMax. It's a giant dome IMAX, and Indy had it. A few other cities have had them, and it makes the IMAX experience so much different. But they have it, and they show their shows daily, and you can just buy a ticket without going to the museum there. But even with the Kentucky Science Center, which is Louisville's, they have a theater, but they lost their IMAX camera because of, I guess, contracts and the cost. But overall, like you said, it's a niche kind of industry, and it's a niche thing if with repairs and different things. 'Cause I remember when the OmniMax has gone down in Cincy, it takes a while before that thing can come back up. But you see the equipment through the screen. You can see it as you're walking in. It's incredible and it's cool. And like I said, at the end of the day, I'm for it all. But like you said, you wonder how much longer it'll be around. But the other caveat with, or caveat or whatever, caveat, what is that word you say? The
Caveat.
caveat with that is there's more future technology. So that's coming that could be cooler, especially, and like you said, they're trying to make anything that'll, catch your eyes, get you hooked. Like the spear, I've heard a lot of good reviews. We were talking about that with, but it uses so much electricity and stuff like that. But yeah, planetariums and IMAXs and OmniMaxes, they might be a little bit of the dying breed over the next 20 years. But what I gotta say for the listeners, support your local planetarium and IMAX and OmniMax. That's what I gotta say so that technology can be around. You never know how far your ticket buy could go. But Jim, thank you so much for being on the show. I feel like we hit a lot of the topics that we wanted to discuss. I feel like we had such an exciting weekend. We just didn't have time to
Mm,
podcast, and with the storm and
no.
everything going on. So this worked out great. I wanted to get this in before your Colorado trip, and as the season progressed, we both have so much chaos in life right now, so we're just trying to day by day, dude. So, but listen, I really appreciate it. But before I sign off, you want to give a little spiel to the listeners or anything?
You know, no, I think that I would round this out by saying thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to be here and discuss anything that like is kind of not just top of mind for like what's going on and whatever, thing that I can bring to the table. But, just hopefully, this is entertaining for your listeners and they enjoy it. Hopefully I'm not too terribly boring. I'm not the most entertaining person ever. I'm pretty bland and dry whenever it comes to stuff like this, but it is what it is. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it. Always happy to come back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, you'll definitely be a regular guest, and you've been on before, and you'll be on again. And no, you're never boring, dude. You always lay out the facts. That's why I'm constantly, even off camera or off record, is like always asking you questions and trying to learn because you stay up to date on the stuff that's important. But vibingwithsleazy.com is the website, Vibing with Sleazy the podcast, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you all for listening and supporting. This episode was recorded on Monday, the 16th of March, but it'll be coming out here a few days. Might be on Saturday, the following weekend after I'm doing a two sport release for tomorrow with March Madness and baseball. But overall, again, thank you, Jim, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
the listeners. We are out. Peace.